Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Well, it's going to go in another direction, so
it always does.
Just buckle up, yeah. Well, if you want to hear that part again, sign up for the Patreon account because that's my little sound that I play when we get a new patron.
It's the only way you can hear it again.
That's right.
It's have to give Scott money.
It's not available anywhere else in the world. I don't know if he's playing an actual theremin. I had this same thought on another song. It sounds like a theremin because it's so smooth up and down the scale. Whereas if you're playing that on a keyboard, you're going to have certain limitations on how it moves up and down. There are patches that will do that, but I don't know if they had anything as smooth back then as that sound. So I'm going to guess it's a theremin.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. Like you said, and the way that he's it's played on a theremin by someone who's probably not a professional theremin player. Woo! And just kind of barely hanging on to the melody and by moving their hand, and it works really well. It's a great effect. If it was smoother, and it wouldn't get that same effect. And Moog makes theremin, so it could be Ken Hensley on the Moog theremin.
That's true, and I think it blends beautifully with the vocals.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's such a unique sound that they have vocally, and obviously in this last section, especially the last couple sections, we've gotten to hear that classic Uriah Heep harmony. I can't imagine just being in the studio and hearing just the vocals being recorded. I think that would have been an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, so how do you feel about the song just kind of fading out?
I mean, it works good. I think it's kind of a quick fade out.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe there's something that got messed up and they had to fade it out a little quickly. It feels like for a 10-minute song to fade out over the course of like maybe 10 seconds, maybe it's a little fast. Maybe it was longer than that, but it seems like the fade out could have been extended a little bit more. But I mean, it's pretty nitpicky.
Yeah, I think that there's always that production issue potential in there too. I like that when Deep Purple, when Roger Glover was going back to do the remasters, he actually let a lot of the songs play until they actually stopped playing, and you could hear what happened after. Some musicians don't like that. Some musicians are like, this is the song, and that's what we wanted you to hear. But there's that curiosity you have about, well, how did they actually end it? John Lord had said that fading out a song was cheating because you couldn't fade out a song live. And I thought, but that's kind of the beauty of playing live versus being in a studio, is that you're required to do something different.
Right. Yeah. You also can't have you can, but you don't usually have a 100-piece orchestra with you live, but you can do that in the studio. There's a lot of things in the studio that you can't do live. And, fade outs are obviously often either we don't know how to end the song, or, well, we messed up in that end jam part, so let's fade it out before the mess up happens. But, it works artistically too. I have no problem with the fade out.
I think for this one in particular, I have this vision because the album starts with the song Sunrise, which has that feel of kind of like the sun coming over the mountain kind of thing. I kind of feel like this is the party that everybody's been waiting for. It's the end of the night, the sun's going down, and it just kind of trails off with everybody just leaving the party, after being threatened. and
like most parties.
Yeah. But I kind of, that's always the vision that I had of it, was that it was, we've gone from sunrise to sunset, and now we've had like a full day in this world.
Yeah. That's a great analysis.
So would you rather go to the Butterfly Ball or the Magician's Birthday?
I mean, it depends. This is the movie of the Butterfly Ball or the imagination
right.
of, yeah, I mean, it sounds like they could be even in the same world. Who knows?
They could. Yeah, very much.
They don't say if the magician is a moth or not. So who knows?
True. That's true. There is no actual definition of the magician other than
we're
Roger Dean's.
Assuming that the magician's human.
Right. Other than Roger Dean's album cover, but the album cover doesn't always relate to the song itself anyway. I do love the album cover for this. It's very red.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely a cool looking album cover. Didn't Roger Dean do Rapture the Deep or something?
I don't know. Did he?
I'll look it up.
But this is a very iconic, just like Demons and Wizards that Roger Dean also did. Just beautiful, absolutely stunning artwork. If you were in a record store, you'd have to pick it up and see what it was all about.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. It reminds me kind of the cover of Rising in a bit. Like it conjures that, while it looks very different, it's got the same kind of idea of this person like facing a foe and everything. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely not Roger Dean that did Rapture the Deep. I don't know what it is. I'm thinking of there's a crossover with Roger Dean. I just can't think of what it is right now. Well,
we'll dig into that and find out, and then I'm sure if somebody
report back.
8 or 9 people haven't told us already, then we'll
everyone's yelling, "You idiots!" Right. Everybody knows he did whatever, this Rainbow album or something.
See, that's the thing. I don't really research. It's just all about the music and what I feel about the music in the moment. And
yeah, he did Yes, Fragile, and maybe that, even though that has nothing to do with Deep Purple, that might be what I'm thinking of because it's really super iconic.
Yeah,
album cover.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you said yes, that was actually the picture that popped into my head before you even said the album cover. Good stuff. Very talented guy,
Oh yeah. I mean, he's a lot of iconic album covers. Yes, I mean, it seems like he did most of the Yes album covers and Asia and all those album covers that kind of conjure this same sort of imagery.
Do you happen to know? This is completely off topic in a way, but do you happen to know who did King Crimson's album cover in the Court of the Crimson King?
I don't off the top of my head.
That seems like it's very on par with these kind of albums. In fact, when David sang the line "Orchid Orchestra," it immediately made me think of "In the Court of the Crimson King" because they've got the purple pipers and all that sort of thing. It would really fit in well in that world, that lyric.
Looks like that album cover is by, where is it? I'm not finding it.
Okay, we'll get back to you on that too.
Yes, report back.
Yes. Well, while we're talking about getting into the music, though, we do have a second version of The Magician's Birthday. It's actually called, it's labeled as just Happy Birthday. And this is listed as a previously unreleased version of the song. It doesn't say that it's an edited version or anything. It just says previously unreleased. But in listening to it, it's an edit. It's kind of a long version for an edited version, but it's just an awkward thing. Once again, it's almost 5 minutes, but I'm just going to play you the beginning and the ending of it so that you can get a feel for what it's all about. It's just really a chopped down version of the song. But here's the opening. So they cut down some of that, I guess, for an edited version. They probably felt like that was maybe a little bit of filler that they could take down.
Yeah, less of a wind up and the Reader's Digest version sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical. I've noticed in these edits that they really are just like, okay, where can we cut out a section of measures that just repeats and just really condense it down to, the meat of it. And I don't think this would have been bad. If I'd have heard this first, I don't think I would have thought much of it. But knowing the song as well as I do, it's awkward.
Yeah, and I mean, what are they? Why would they cut that down? Like, were they thinking, oh, if we shave off 10 seconds of the song, maybe we can get some radio play? Still probably not gonna.
I'm thinking either radio play or B-side material for
even
45.
then. I mean, how long is this? Is the rest of the song similar, or did they cut out other parts?
Yeah, the actual song is 10 minutes and 29 seconds, and this is 4:44.
Oh, okay.
So they've cut out a lot. In fact, just to give you an idea of how much they cut out, here's how it ends.
So basically, the last 60% of the song is gone.
Right. So right where that those crescendos start happening, that's where they cut it. And so all of the solo work, all the magic of the drums and everything that happens after that is missing. So I could see this working as a B-side or as a radio version, but I would be really sad if I found out, like if that was the version I'd heard for years and then 10 or 20 years down the road, I heard the full version. I'd be so upset that I missed out on all the other magic of the song.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's still just, even that beginning part, like why? I mean, they probably only lost 10 seconds or 20 seconds of the song. Why not? And what would you say, 4:47 it was?
4:44, yeah.
It's still too long. You know what I mean? Like if they're looking for like a poppy radio, I think sometimes you just got to say, listen, this is not the song. If we're looking to get radio play, this just isn't the song. Like it's got some great elements that could work on their own. Like we said, if they had developed these all as individual songs, but I don't know. I think you just got to know what you're in for. And that was never going to happen with this song, I don't think.
Yeah, very much so. And I know that there was an idea at one time for this album to be a concept album. So if you would have taken this and then you could have taken some themes from it and then developed other songs, making the whole thing like a cohesive story, I could see that having worked really well. I would be sad that we didn't have the other songs on the album the way that we know them, but I could see that being the case. I don't know why it didn't end up being a concept album, but on the whole, the album's great as it is, but it would have been nice to see this developed as a full story, because I really like concept albums. For me, that would have been fun.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and we would have had more kazoo, which would have been nice too.
Yeah, the concept could have been all about the kazoo.
So, thinking in terms of the overall song, what are your feelings having gone through it and dug a little bit into the instrumentation more?
I think it's great. I love experimental stuff like this, and thinking about it in its time, it was in 1972 or so. Just really great.
3, I think we were at by this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting, and you still have bands out there that are doing kind of similar things. Actually, recent track that reminds me a lot of this is, have you heard the Claypool Lennon Delirium?
I have not.
They have the big release they have off of their album from last year or the year before, is called Blood and Rockets, and it's a very weird Claypool sort of stuff, but also you've got the Sean Lennon elements and very John Lennon in parts, and actually reminds me a lot of this song. But I definitely recommend giving that a listen. But you've got but it's weird because it's like a poppy sort of almost radio friendly song that is very strange in this kind of way. So there's still bands out there doing that kind of thing, but back it was a lot more risky and a lot more adventurous, I think, 50 years ago when this was done, to try to just stitch something together like this. And it was great that there were so many people pushing the envelope the way that Uriah Heep was on this song. Because it doesn't always work, but you come up with some great stuff some of the time, and this is definitely an example of that.
Well, you bring up a good point. I think in our day and age, I think that Primus was really kind of the Uriah Heep of the more recent times, with the just being completely experimental, very bass heavy, doing all kinds of stuff that we've never really heard a bass do in very interesting ways. I have to wonder if maybe there wasn't a little bit of Paul Newton and Gary Thain influence in him, just showing what a bass could really do in a song and not lay back so much. Maybe even some Roger Glover too, because he does a lot of work on bass in a song that I don't really know he gets the credit for either.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised, like hearing a lot of this Uriah Heep stuff. Obviously, you always go to your own references and your own inspirations and think, oh wow, this sounds like this sounds like that. But of course, the things you're thinking of happened after the Uriah Heep stuff, so you can't help but think that whether it was intentional or not, that they had an influence on a lot of bands. And I really wonder if that particular song I just mentioned is one of them, because there's some pretty striking similarities between the two.
Well, I'll have to check that out. I think I kind of got burned out on Primus, but because I'm not really into fishing, but they definitely had some great songs. And
what about Sailing? Do you like Sailing the Seas of Cheese?
I wouldn't mind. I'm still concerned about a drop in cheese prices after listening to the Butterfly Ball again.
It's something to be concerned about, especially with this economy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I actually have somewhere behind, I forget where it is, but I had my my old long box from when I bought Sailing the Seas of Cheese. You remember the long box that used to come in, the big, for some reason I have a small handful of them, and that's one of them.
Wow. Yeah, so many different mediums that albums would come out in, and you would buy it again just because it's like a different album cover or a different, format or whatever. I once thought I would be a collector of everything, and then I realized how ridiculous and expensive. I had other things to do with my money, like buying
honestly, just the
stuff.
space. Like, where are you going to put all this crap? It's just too much stuff.
Yeah, and I've moved too many times to want to really collect anything much at all. And I see that you're drinking out of your Uriah Heep podcast mug.
I am. I really always do.
Yes, I did not. My Deep Purple one is in the sink right now. Right. I actually forgot to make my tea before I started the show. I really love your show, and I want to talk about your show before we wrap up, because you guys really do a deep dive into the history of the band, what was going on at the time, whereas I really just avoid all of that and really dig into the music. You guys don't get as deep into the technicalities of the song as I do, because you'll do an album per episode where I do a song per episode. But I have learned so much about a band I thought I knew pretty much everything about. I mean, if you would have said there's a Deep Purple trivia contest, I would just think I could win. And I have been so wrong about so many things that I've learned from you guys. How much time does it really take for you to get an episode together?
Well, I mean, I'd probably a lot quicker now than it used to, just as far as gathering all the information. We're not by any means experts. We get a lot of stuff wrong, and there's a lot of stuff that we learn maybe close to the episode. A lot of the music goes back far for us, and we have a lot of history with it. But before doing the show, like you just said, we didn't spend a ton of time talking about the history of it. We just kind of mostly throw that in there as a kind of a little thing. So, but I've got a bunch of books on Deep Purple, and I've got bookmarks and little, what are those little tabs in the pages and all over the place. So if I need to if I on a day's notice had to throw together an episode on any album in the family, I could very quickly go to all of my resource points and say, I'm this page of this book, I read these few pages, and it's just really about just kind of compiling really quick notes, and then just kind of freestyling it when we get to the episode and talking about some of the things that were in the notes and what we looked at. So
it's a really interesting combination of what feels like very spontaneous conversation, but also well-educated knowledge. I really like that. It's a really nice balance that you guys have. I had John on when we were doing Easy Living, and it really feels like when I'm listening to you guys, even before we became friends, before we met each other, I kind of felt like you guys were friends that I've known for years and just hung out with. Like, I'm just sitting at the table listening to you guys talk, and I just don't have anything to contribute because you couldn't hear me anyway. But I really like the relaxed, casual, just natural conversation approach to it. It seems like your guys' reactions to what you're hearing are really what you're feeling at that moment, which is how the one similarity that we do have is that it's just, here's what I'm hearing right now as I'm listening to this song.
We just, that was the whole genesis of the show, was just to revisit some of these old favorite albums of ours and some new ones that maybe we never got a chance to listen to. And it was mostly just, an excuse to, like, let's make an excuse to talk once a week about the stuff that we really love. And neither of us, apart from each other, had anyone we could talk to about it. Now we've met all these people that we could talk to about Deep Purple. But yeah, it was, who am I going to, I'm not going to, my wife will nod and listen and humor me, but she's not going to have much to say other than the few crossover albums that she does enjoy from that family. Mm-hmm. I don't have really, even a lot of my other close friends aren't really into this band or a lot of this stuff, maybe some of it. So yeah, it's great to get together with John, who we've known each other for 30 something years. So it's easy for us to just get together on a moment's notice and chat about this stuff. And a lot of the stuff just comes up during the episode, things that we're thinking of at the moment. It's not really, most of the time we don't listen to the album at all leading up to the episode, just so that it will be a little bit more spontaneous.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like that you guys aren't just covering the Deep Purple albums. I mean, you're really doing the whole extended family. You're doing Whitesnake, you're doing Gillan, you're doing Rainbow, all the little branches of the tree, which you'll probably be doing for another 25 or 30 years to get all those in, because there's just tons of them. But I like that. I like that you guys just recently covered the Gillan album, the Japanese album, which I've never heard before. In fact, I don't think I even knew it existed. Which is a really weird album, but listening to you guys talk about it, and I feel like I know it really well, even though I've only heard it once now.
Yeah. I mean, and some of the stuff sounds, when you've critically looked at all of these albums in great detail, you can pop in a new album that maybe you're not as familiar with, and then immediately say, oh yeah, these are all the trademarks of these particular musicians, and it can sound familiar even if you're not as, like, is that album, the Japanese album, I've heard it before, but I hadn't heard it in years, and it was never a go-to album for me. So it was a fun one to do, but yeah, neither of us were super huge fans of it. Not that we dislike it, but it wasn't a go-to for either of us.
Yeah, it's just one of those albums that kind of came out and you recognize it's part of the family, and every once in a while you'll be like, that was kind of okay. Maybe I'll put that on, and you'll listen to a couple of songs and be like, all right, let's put on Glory Road or something like that, because it's just not, it doesn't have that full magic that some of his other albums did. There's a couple good tunes on it, but it's really kind of all over the place with the horror themes and all of that, and the album cover is very unsettling. That it's just his eyes, I think, are what for me just kind of make me go, I don't know what was happening when they did this photo shoot, but
yeah, he looks insane.
Yeah, he does. So you guys are pretty much on all the same networks that this podcast is on. You're on Stitcher, you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, all that good stuff. Go check them out, guys. I've got a link to their webpage in the show notes, as I did with John when he came on the show. Great, well-researched stuff, as opposed to me, where you guys have to tell me what was going on in the band at the time, because I just talk about the music. That's the focal point for me. But you guys do a full album per episode. The episodes are like an hour to 2 hours long, and a lot of great information, a lot of fun just listening to these guys talk. So go check them out. Nathan, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and, celebrating the magician with me.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope he has a great birthday, and I was really glad to be here for this episode. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. Well, come back and see us again.
I certainly will.
Take care, my friend.
All right, you too.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!